Hey, everybody, you are listening to the Soberful podcast, and I am really happy today because I am joined by the very lovely Millie Mackintosh. Hi, Millie.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on. This is a real pinch me moment. And yeah, I was actually a little bit nervous before. I don't
Seriously?
know why. Yeah. But
Why?
I don't know. I guess I'm used to speaking to Chip. And I haven't even seen him in so long. And after I sent him my book, he said, you should really come on the podcast. And I'm really glad we made it happen. We had to reschedule. My 3-year-old broke my nose, just
Oh my God.
standard parenting stuff that's been going on. But I'm really glad we've made it happen. I got my nose fixed.
Yeah, oh my God, that was crazy. I've had that happen. I've had that, and they didn't break my nose, but I thought when they just,
Yeah,
yeah, oh
it
my
just
gosh.
moved so quickly.
Your poor thing. Well, yeah, Chip mentioned your book. And as I was saying before, Chip is fairly hard to impress, right? Especially with books
Yeah,
about sobriety.
he doesn't sugarcoat things, and he's
No.
not gonna lie to your face just to make you feel better. Like, he's just gonna tell you straight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And he was like, no, it's good. He said, no, it's good. Trust me, it's good. I was like, ooh. So I got it. And I was like, well, do you think she'll want to come on? And he's like, oh, and you did, and it's great. So can you tell people just about yourself? Because I also want to kind of
Yes.
Americans may not have heard of you, but who are you and what do you do?
My name is Millie, actually Camilla, but I've been called Millie since I was a teenager. I am a 35-year-old mum of two, and I have been sober for nearly 3 years. I coincidentally, the reason I'm on the podcast is because Chip was the person that helped me to get and stay sober, and he was a big part of my journey. In the first 6 months, I saw him every week or did an online session if we couldn't meet. And it's like, where do I start? Tell you about a little bit about my life now, because I'm sure we'll go into all the
Yeah.
history with alcohol.
Why would people have heard of you?
So I guess maybe on Instagram, I'm more in the UK that people would maybe most of my followers are UK based, but I post a mixture of lifestyle, beauty, fashion, travel, and just quite honest content talking about actually sobriety, mental health, parenting struggles, just the reality of life and not just the glossy bits. So that's kind of what I do on social media. My most important job is being a mum of two girls.
Mm.
One of them is 5 tomorrow. So
Oh, wow.
I've just been frantically wrapping presents, because I always leave it to the last minute, and making cupcakes for her year because she wants to take them in tomorrow. And we live in West London. We recently renovated a house, and we live in an area of London called Chelsea, and it's me, my husband, the girls, and our pug, Luna.
Okay. And you did a lot of your drinking back in the
Mm-hmm.
day when you were on a TV show, right?
Yes, yeah,
Called
yeah.
Made in Chelsea.
Made in Chelsea. So for your US listeners, that's a bit like kind of The Hills. It's
That's
like
what
an
I was, yeah,
equivalent.
it's kind of like The Hills. Yeah, that kind of TV show. Well, I don't,
Yeah,
it, is it, it's real? It is real? I've never
it's like
seen it.
yeah. I mean, his, but yeah, don't feel like you need to watch it. It is structured reality. So you don't have a script, but it's the scenes are set up so that they're filming they're following a storyline, but you're not being told what to say. But it was. I mean, it was over 10 years ago. It was like 15 years ago, actually, when I was about 21 when I did it. And there was a lot of drinking going on then. There was a lot of
Yeah.
drinking. For me, I was a big binge drinker. So from 14 through to, what was it? I must have been about 32 when I stopped.
So I've been reading your book, and that's what my first biggest takeaway, Millie, was how your drinking, our drinking was exactly the same. It was
Okay.
quintessential British female binge drinking, right? And it's
Yeah.
it's not about having a glass or two, it's about getting wrecked.
Mm-hmm.
And right out of the gate, that's what it was about, right? It just, I know I think the Australians drink like that as well, South Africans, Americans do as well, but there's just something very, very British, because we also do it much younger, because we can drink in, our age is 18, but the same. I started at 14, couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to do all of that.
Same.
What first thing I want to talk about, because this made me really sad, was your first experience with alcohol. Would you mind talking about that? Because I also know from my work it's unfortunately very common.
Yes. So the first time I got really drunk and, lost control, I was sexually assaulted. And at the time, I didn't realize it was sexual assault because I blamed myself instantly because I'd been so drunk. But I thought it was my fault that I'd been in that state and kind of allowed myself that to happen to me. And I carried so much shame for so many years, but it was really one of those things. I just buried it so deep, and then I continued to drink. Sadly, and this I know happens a lot. I continued to binge drink and continued to myself in dangerous situations where I would be taken advantage of, where I would wake up in the morning and have no memory of how I got home or woke up in someone's bed and had no memory of even meeting them. And, just having so little regard for myself, I just really hated myself and really carried around a lot of those really dark feelings, of heavy feelings of shame and regret and self-loathing. And it was like a real self-sabotage that just kept happening.
Yeah, it's compounded, isn't it? The awful things happen. We feel awful. We feel the shame and guilt. We don't want to feel like that. Drinking temporarily relieves it, creates more dreadful things, and it just becomes compounded. I'll be honest, when I read your book, because you said several times, so there was fun times, there was whatever, your drinking really sounded hard bloody work right out of the gate. It sounded like more awful than it was fun, but we don't see it like that, do we?
It was when I first saw Chip for a session, and I saw Chip like 2 times, like in terms of like once a few years before I actually finally stopped, and I like wanted to stop and wasn't ready. And then when I saw him and I actually properly stopped drinking. And both times, he was, especially the first time, it really shocked me when he made me see how dangerous it was. How before I just been, it's not that bad. Like everyone does it, and I'd kind of would normalize, or it was so normalized that you drink till you passed out, or drink till you blacked out and couldn't remember most of the night. And he really scared me and made me realize that I could end up seriously hurting myself, or I could have ended up dead, because I was also mixing alcohol with Xanax, which is really, really dangerous. And I'd got myself into a situation where I just couldn't say no. It was so ingrained in me to just like, that was how, even when I was like, I'm not going to drink, or I'll just have one. I could never stick to any of the rules. But I was definitely in denial that I had a serious problem for a long time.
It's a process, isn't it? And I got sober when I was 27. It's a process of our culture sells us this story really effectively, that alcohol is the best way to have fun, excitement, belonging, connection, to relax and to reward yourself. And when you're in your 20s, right, why would you want to give up all of that? Like, that sounds awful, right?
Yeah. You're going to be, like, what will I do?
Yeah, I'll be giving up. But although, and that belief means that you then can't see the cost of your drinking. And the cost of your drinking was really high right out of the gate. So I'll have some clients who for years were fairly regular drinkers, no big deal, maybe a couple of hangovers a year, no big deal, but it maybe escalates in their 40s or something. I was like you. 14 years old, I was lying in gutters with vomit all over myself
Yeah.
and getting myself
Yeah.
into really bad situations. And I was
Yeah.
telling everyone that it was fun, that I'd had a great
Oh
night.
yeah. Yeah. I always had the best stories to tell. It became part of
Mm,
my personality that I was the wild, crazy one that would crack everyone up with a story of like some wild thing that had happened. But it was always at my expense. So I just couldn't see that it was at my expense every
mm,
time. And
mm,
you're right, the cost was so high. And my hangovers got worse over the years. But even from, I'm super sensitive. I now know I'm ADHD. I think I haven't done a test. I think I'm possibly AUDHD as well, which is like when you're on the autistic spectrum, it's like
hmm.
autism with ADHD. And I suspect I am slightly. Apparently, one of the signs of that is that you don't have a strong awareness when you've had too much to drink. Like you can,
Hmm.
like not have the warning signs, like the kind of signals other people might get when it's time to slow down.
Interesting.
But I think with the now understanding the ADHD as well, it's like the craving of dopamine, and like when you've had that, the first couple of drinks, you're just chasing the feeling. And I just wanted to keep going and keep going and keep going.
So what one of the things I want to ask you about, because again, this was my story and I know it's very common, is the relationship with anxiety. You've
Mm-hmm.
suffered with anxiety from as a teenager. There was bullying, all kinds of stuff. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So I started to have panic attacks as a teenager. I was bullied quite badly from the age of 12.
Mm,
And I also had lost my grandmother very suddenly at around the same age. Like there was a lot going on. I moved schools against my will because one of the schools shut down in the middle of term, like just so it was like a kind of an unplanned upheaval where I felt settled and I was being uprooted and put into another school without any choice about where I was going, without knowing anyone at the school,
mm,
being at all prepared that this was going to happen. I was grieving without any support. I was, a few hours away from home and I wasn't able to go home every weekend. So I was really, really heartbroken, and I had a lot of anger towards my family, anger towards the teachers at school, like any kind of authority, and I was being bullied. And then around this time, I discovered alcohol, and boys started to show me attention. So that became those were my vices.
mm. You've described some really awful. It gave me chills because I know exactly what that's like. You described some really awful panic attacks and anxiety. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Has that got better? Have you noticed it's got better since you've been sober?
Yes and no. I don't know if you got to the end of the book. I talk about it like quite near the end, but actually, I'd say when I first got sober, the anxiety felt like it had gone.
Mm,
I just, briefly over the years, I didn't realize I had anxiety until I was in my 20s because I didn't know what it was. I had a lot of stomach issues. I was having panic attacks, but didn't really understand they were panic attacks until I was in my 20s. And this anxiety continued all the way through my 20s. I started medicating with Xanax and Valium from the age of about 18, 19, and had been diagnosed with depression when I was 16, but refused medication. I didn't want to go onto like an antidepressant, and I was in denial. I wasn't really in. I was in denial that I had a problem. I didn't want help, and I thought I was fine. And I was having loads of fun and just like continued partying, and then having such bad anxiety that I wouldn't be able to leave the house for days and days.
oh my God.
And then when I stopped drinking, my anxiety did feel like it had really lifted. I was like, this is great. Maybe I've sorted all my problems out just because I've stopped drinking. And then there was the harsh reality that was my feelings that were waiting for
Mm,
me, and that I did not know how to handle without alcohol and Xanax. And I actually ended up having a bit of a like mental breakdown
mm,
where I was having so many panic attacks. I was scared of I was scared of my anxiety. I got myself into like a difficult place. Like I was scared of eating because I was terrified I was going to choke. I was scared of all the sensations in my body. I developed a really intense health anxiety. So if I had a chest pain, I was terrified I was having a stroke. I started to get this in my throat, would feel like it was constricting, which is where I felt like I couldn't eat. I had insomnia, and I was diagnosed with panic disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, and it was a really difficult time. That was just over a year ago. And I went onto medication, and it's been a real game changer. Like, just took a bit of time to settle, get used to the medication, find the right dose. I also tried like 2 different types of medication before I found one that worked better for me. But then I've got the insomnia. There's a lot of side effects with these things, and I've also done a lot of regular therapy and EMDR. I'm in such a better place now, and I'm actually wanting to now come off the medication, and about to start tapering down. But I probably won't come off it completely, maybe for another 6 months to a year, because I'm just going to do it very gradually.
Yeah, that's very wise. I think what you're describing is emotional sobriety. Stopping drinking is 10% not drinking alcohol and 90% emotional sobriety. And you're absolutely right? It's the stopping drinking bit's easy. And then you get all these feelings. And it sounds like, and our stories are so similar, except I wasn't on a TV show, thank God, because I would have been a disaster.
I was a disaster. There was a lot of, it was messy.
I didn't know how to do life. Like I just didn't know how to cope with anything because I just used outside fixes. I just used pills, booze, attention from men, cigarettes, food. I didn't know how to deal with frustration or disappointment or fear or resentment and they've just been bottled up, right? They were just sitting in this storage container. And I really think the first 5 years of sobriety is about just dealing with this stuff and learning how to be a human in the world. Is that kind of been your experience?
Yeah. And through this experience, by 3 years, nearly 3 years of sobriety, I've been a mum for 5 years now. But I had my second child at 18 months apart. So through this time, I've had it's a lot of stuff coming up where I've got these young children. It's a very testing time. It's teaching me so much, and I'm just so glad I am sober because it's really hard. It's testing it would be testing for anybody, but it's just constantly, pushing me to the point where I feel very frustrated, and there's feelings of anger and mum rage and guilt and all these things that are coming up, and I'm trying to juggle, life and do it all and try to stay mentally well and okay and look after myself. So yeah, it's quite a wild ride, but I'm feeling in a really good place. And I think one of the things that really helps me is talking about it. And listening to podcasts, and the more and more I hear about, brain health, and I'm so glad I found this path, because in terms of the future and just wanting to be healthy for the rest of my life, or as healthy as I can, and doing all the things, I feel very focused on doing all the things I can now to safeguard myself in the future, to make sure that I'm going to be around for my kids and that I'm going to be, the best version of myself. But yeah, it's definitely confronting really stop drinking, because there's anything that you've tried to avoid, you just can't anymore. Everything becomes very clear. But that clarity is amazing, but sometimes you're also like, oh my God. I find I've got some sober friends now, and talking to them about it also really helps, because they're also mums and at a similar stage to me. One's been sober a bit longer, one's been sober a bit less, but they just get it. I'm sure you find that with your community as well. It's just, I really find it helps me, but I talk about it on my social media as well, and connect with other people who are on the journey.
Yeah, sober community and sober friends, I think, is essential, especially when you're relatively young. Because I got sober in 2000. I was 27 in the UK. People just looked at me like I had two heads, right?
Yeah.
having, my kind of sober crowd was generally older than me, but I did eventually find people like my age. And Millie, I'm just going to tell you, the sober crowd is the coolest crowd.
Yeah, I'm realizing that. It seriously is, because it's people that actually are just have got so much more emotional awareness. They're just, and you can just go straight in with the deep chat straight away as well.
Yes. Yeah. Isn't it? It's different, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
it's like I don't, like, I may not know your story, but I know how you felt, because that's how I
Mm-hmm.
felt. And we don't need to mess around with like, oh, like, yeah, it's so much more authentic. That's what I love, the sober community. When I got married, half the people in the church were sober people. And the thing is about sober people, it's not just that we're not drinking, it's that we're really growing as well. Have you found that?
Yeah. And really feel like in the friendships I've made with other people who are sober, it's like that. I really feel so proud of them when I see that growth in them, and I see the difference in our friendships. Like, I can say to them, "You're being triggered right now." Like, I can see it. Like, if say there was a tension that was coming up between us, I'd be like, "Look," I had to say to one of them, like, I can't always speak when you want to speak, but it's not, I can see this is triggering you, but this is something to do with like an insecurity you've had, to do with something from when you were a teenager. It's not to do with like with us. And actually just not being like, I love you and I'm able to say this to you because I think this is going to help you. And then she actually received it so well. I was
Wow.
like, wow, I just wouldn't do that in most of my other friendships.
Mm.
But it's very honest. It's like there's no, you could really tell each other, like, okay, I can see what you're doing here, and like I think you're gonna want, like, almost a bit, I don't know, I feel like one of my friends she's in AA, she's been a bit like a sponsor for me, like
Wow.
someone like I could call, and we talk about the steps quite a lot. But yeah, I feel like it's amazing to have someone I could call if I ever had that moment of like, I think I'm going to pick up a drink. I need to see you. I need to call you, and having someone who just gets it is, yeah, worth its
Yeah.
weight in gold.
Yeah, it's an essential component. How I'd love to know about how you've noticed your relationships change, right? You
Mm-hmm.
must, I'm going to guess that your husband and your family were probably quite concerned about you. What's that journey been like, sort of, as your relationships change?
Yeah, so I would say my husband obviously very relieved that I stopped drinking. It didn't instantly fix our relationship because there was a lot of work to do on both sides, just that we had been avoiding doing. And we did some therapy and became much better at communicating, and feel now like much more on the same page, and we're able to both. We've both done our own work separately as well, so I think we can now connect much more on a deeper level. But what I realised was that when we've known each other since I was 16, and when we first met, it was based on attraction. Just, you're hot, hot. Okay, but we've got chemistry. Like, there was a very physical thing there. And then we dated when I was 21, when I was on this TV show. That ended badly. I married someone else. He was in a different relationship, and then we ended up separating from our partners and reconnecting, getting back together. And we both really changed, and we knew that, like, quite quickly, that it was going to be serious. But I still don't think at that point we were really having a kind of deeper connection, because we changed, but we were still evolving. And it's now in my 30s, and now in my mid 30s, that I feel like I've really grown into myself a lot more in the last couple of years. And I think when you start to really get to know yourself better, you seek that deeper connection with others, because you're doing that work within yourself. And it's kind of frustrating if you're other people in your life are not willing to do the work, because you're like, I'm going deep. I want to go deep with you. But also, it's like learning to accept that not everybody does want to do the work. And with certain people, other people that I'm close with, it's just, I'm trying to just learn to let them, and to just, not, like, you can't change people if they're not ready or willing to change.
And what about, like, sort of friendships and like the people that you used to to drink with? Like, did you get pushback? Did you get like, oh, don't be ridiculous, or you just need to take a break or whatever?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
how's that all changed?
Yeah, I had like, at a party, kind of like, oh, come on, have a drink. Don't, not still doing that sober thing, are you? Or, those kind of comments. Like, I think the people that have made comments like that, I know I don't see anymore. I don't socialize with. And I mean, my really close friends totally get it and were the ones that had those conversations with me when they told me they were worried.
Yeah.
I don't, I have so much fun in their company. I never feel like I need alcohol to be around them. But there's things that I've declined invites to because I like the people going. I don't know everyone often at these things. It might be a 40, now it might be like a big 40th or, just something where it's going to be quite formal, quite a lot of, just quite like heavy partying, to be honest, and just a situation that I know I'm not going to feel comfortable in. And if it doesn't feel essential to go, it's not my absolute best friend, then I just don't go. And sometimes my husband still goes because he might know the people. I don't even really need to feel the need to make an excuse. I just say, it's just not, it's not healthy for me to be there. And I don't really have a problem saying that. I'm like, I feel proud of myself for doing that. I shouldn't have to lie also. There's certain situations for me, if it feels too testing, like I was really jet lagged and I was invited out to a dinner and I only knew some of the people. And I was like, it's so hard without alcohol because that's what I would normally reach for to push through that really tired feeling. But I also love staying in. So I have to just admit that I am someone that's, maybe I'm frightfully boring, but like I just love being in the evening. I'm such a homebody.
Yeah, I'm going to say a lot of that's age as you get. Yeah, and
I'm like, my kids are going to come in the night. Like, I'm going to be up at 6 a.m. Like, I just want to be in bed by 9.
Yeah, I mean that's just it's the circumstances of life, right? It's like young kids, you get into your 30s, it's all just you don't want to be out till 2 a.m. and like all that. Just
I don't want to have dinner. I don't want to have a late dinner. Like, if you want to have dinner, it needs to be like 8 p.m. is quite late. Like, can we do 7?
I like 7. I'm like 5. I'm like an elderly person.
So I do actually eat most nights at 5 with my kids, and then when I put them to bed, I then don't have to make dinner. So I just eat with them. And I'm going on a date night with my husband after this, actually, to celebrate my daughter turning 5 tomorrow, and we're having a 6 p.m. dinner. Perfect.
I'm so with you. Yeah, a lot of that is just the circumstances of life. But yeah, there is no greater gift than you have given your children than not drinking. And role model, it's not just the not drinking, it's the role modeling a different way to deal with life. So they're not seeing, like, I'll have clients who'll say like, oh, I don't think my kids really knew. They knew. Yeah. And they saw that you would be frustrated or overwhelmed or stressed. And they saw that you always had to have a glass or 2 or 3 of wine when you felt. So you're role modeling how to deal with feelings. I just want you to know, Millie, the greatest gift you can give your kids is to not drink. Like their childhood is going to be very, very different because of that.
Thank you. I'm very grateful that they will not remember me drinking. And, I sometimes think back and think, oh, I wish I'd stopped before they were born. And I wish, but I can't change anything. I worry like the anxiety I had was so bad, and, that surely is going to have affected them in their formative years. But all I know is that I'm doing the work now to be emotionally sober and to have to just be able to pause before I react and to actually respond rather than reacting to them, and to just try to be more gentle with myself and also with them. With my style of parenting, I definitely don't want to be the reactive, shouty, angry, snappy mum. I want to be the understanding, fair, firm but fair mum that they feel like they can go to with anything, with any problem, and tell me. And I really, really want to build that with them.
When I was 11 years sober when I had my first son, and a therapist, all those things. And I thought I was going to be perfect, so close to being perfect. And I had my son, and one thing that I didn't realize is it triggers all of your unresolved issues from childhood. And you start parenting like your parents. And I don't know about you, I didn't want to parent like my mother. And my mum shouted, and I shouted at my son when he was maybe 2 or 3, and I saw his face and went,
Same.
I don't want to be that person.
I had the exact same thing. And my daughter was like, Mummy, scary. Mummy, I'm scared. And it's like, she's telling me she's scared of me. And I just felt like such a monster. I was like, oh my God, it's my job to make her feel safe. But like, we're not perfect. And like, I've had those moments of just shouting and being like, stop it. Like, I've been so, it's like that overwhelm where you're just like, it was often for me like crying, the baby crying. And I was just being like, I can't take any more crying. And then just like feeling so low about myself if I had an outburst where I just remember one where I was just sat on the floor, like rocking and shaking and crying in front of them. And then afterwards, I was like, I meant to be their safe space, and they'd seen me have like an absolute meltdown. And now that doesn't happen. But if I ever do get frustrated with them, or I'm a bit snappy or whatever, I apologize. And I say, Mummy shouldn't have spoken to you like that. I'm sorry. That was wrong. And Mummy had some big feelings. Mummy's feeling particularly tired today, and kind of explain it a bit. And then we talk about it. And I've realized that there's no point beating yourself up if you do have a moment where you're not happy with how you responded to them. It's about how you make up that really counts. You can show them that it's okay to make a mistake and then apologize. And that's also teaching them.
100% agree. That's it. Because I then discovered that I was not going to be a perfect parent. I had to settle for good enough. Yeah. And I was also going to make messes and mistakes. And all you can do is just open it. It's the kind of like, own it, apologize for it. And it's like, I don't know about you, but it's like everything was like pushed to one side when I was growing up. It's like, we don't do that. Like, we talk about the messy, uncomfortable feelings because it's okay. Yeah. Everyone's safe, right?
Totally. It's like, yes, let's actually look at what's going on here. Like, and it's a lot about being curious as well. And if my kid's like acting in a certain way, it's like, get curious, like what is going on? Because and remembering like when they're being difficult, they're having a difficult time. So they're not being difficult just to piss you off, or to like, they're struggling. And the more they're acting out, like the more they're struggling. And remembering that helps me to stay calm in the situation.
Yeah. I wonder if you could say something about this part of the process. Again, going back to your book, I was reading the bit last night about when you're in Cannes at the film festival and oh gosh, yeah. Do you want to just tell that story? And what I want to ask you about is how you've been dealing with the shame from the past and letting go about that. But if you could tell the story about when you were at Cannes.
Okay, so yeah, I have so many blurry memories, but I had so many binge drinking experiences that were very like messy and harmful. But this one is a particularly raw one. It was hard to put it in the book, but I'm glad that I did. And being in the public eye since I was 21, through my 20s, there was press attention when I was at a kind of quite a public event. And I got invited to the AMFAR charity gala at the end of the Cannes Film Festival. And this is a massive red carpet event with all kinds of A-list actors, artists, musicians, models. And I felt incredibly lucky to have been invited, and also really felt the pressure of like being on that carpet. And I was also invited by the sponsor, who happened to be a vodka brand. And there was a night out before the main event, which is just always a bad idea. But being me at this age and at this time, I went on the night out and met all the different people that they'd invited and got completely trashed until, the sensible thing would have been to go, show face, say hello to all the people that were going to be there at the big event the next day, and to have, left after dinner. But I was out till like 4 a.m. completely, like wasted. And I woke up the next morning with a pounding headache and hangover. And what did I do? I, got up and had a drink with breakfast, and then, more drinks at lunch, and didn't basically sober up. The hangover and anxiety I was feeling about going to this event just kept hitting me in the face. And it was just like rising up, and I was just like, have another drink. And I then started popping Xanax at the same time, just gotta like get through this night. And I really talked to myself, and I was like, right, you can't drink too much. You've got to like keep it. You've got to like kind of take the edge off, but you've got to just try and keep it together. And I was so anxious, and I was in this couture dress, and I had done my makeup and tried to, make myself look as kind of presentable, and like you wouldn't know on the outside what was going on inside, which was this incredible hangover and a lot of anxiety. I managed to get through the red carpet, and then there was a 2-hour drinks reception, and I was drinking like martinis, and I don't really remember anything after that. And and at this point, this is like the biggest event I'd ever been to in terms of like in my like career. I had to be kind of carried out of the dinner and then put in a car where I was unconscious at this point, and I was like signed for. I had to like be sent back to the hotel, and I had to be, and my manager who was waiting at the hotel, she hadn't been able to come for dinner with me, had to like sign for me like a package. And the hangover from that was,
I can't imagine how you felt waking up the next day knowing that you had so spectacularly and publicly messed up. It must have been. How did you get through that?
I got drunk again. I went to stay with friends in the south of France and partied for another 3 days straight.
Wow.
Like that's, yeah.
Jeez.
So I dealt with
denial.
It. Like denial.
Just push it away.
And then just continue combination of the pills, the alcohol, just going between the two. It sends like chills down my spine.
Yeah.
And I like even seeing pictures from that night and that event, I just look so dead. Like my eyes, just like, I feel really sad for that girl, and it's such a classic self-sabotage. You're nervous about this big event and then going out the night before, and like, it's like really doing that damage because kind of nervous of, well, how am I going to be perceived? It's like imposter syndrome. I'm not good enough to be there. I'm not pretty enough. I'm all these things that were coming up from me being this awkward teenage girl that was bullied. And all of that was coming up. And I can see that so clearly now, like, why I self-sabotaged in that way. Yeah, there was sadly quite a lot of that kind of behavior. And I just remember one of my feelings, thoughts the next day was like, well, at least there was no pictures. At least nobody, at least it's not in the papers. So I kind of got away with it.
I'm glad that you have some self-compassion for yourself, for your younger self. Where are you now with sort of reconciling that past and dealing with the shit? Because that is a big part of the emotional sobriety work, because we all come into this with so much shame. And I always tell my clients, you aren't a bad person, you were unwell. And certainly we may have, some amends that need to be made. That's appropriate. But where are you now with that process?
Now through doing quite a lot of work in therapy, can look back on that though, and I do feel that compassion and that it's the self-love is something I'm working on daily. It doesn't come naturally to me, and I'm even like currently daily having being just so aware of the dialogue that goes on in my head, and the go-to is the nasty thought first. And I've developed, even in just like through like a regular meditation practice, really I'm trying to get better at just catching it catching myself have that negative thought and actually going, hang on, what's going on here? Like being curious, like what's coming up? Why is this coming up? And like asking questions and pausing and not disbelieving the thought. And actually, even like I have body dysmorphia, but like realizing, like, don't trust the way you see yourself. Like, it's not always correct. Like the way that I see myself in the mirror is I'm sometimes seeing something else. And that takes me to see a photo to realize that what I'm doing to myself in my head. And it's, you know, when's the work ever over? It's like there's always something more to work on, but I'm so much more aware of these thoughts and the things that are coming up. It's definitely not like I'm going to be done. I'm not going to be like, oh, I've completed my work. I'm done. I think it's like you're always, you know, on this journey, improving and learning and having ups and downs. But I feel like doing the book has really allowed me to let go of a lot of the shame and to just say, hey, I put my hand up, I had a drinking problem.
Yeah.
Like, you know what the label is exactly, like, I don't think it matters. I just found it very freeing to be like, hey, I'm a bad drunk. Like, I don't drink now because this is what happens when I do.
Yeah.
It's actually very freeing, I think, when you can admit that, yeah, I was really unwell. I was really damaging myself and I was on a very destructive path that could have led to, like, losing everything.
Yeah. What's the kind of feedback you've had from the book?
Feedback has been amazing. I think a lot of women, like you said, like yourself, this British woman binge drinking, it's like binge, and it's just like this female experience of the binge drinking, the doing things you regret and like not really remembering, sexual assault, all of these things. It just seems to have happened to so many other people, and a lot of women who, particularly mums, seem to be reaching out to me and saying, you know, that they just haven't been able to stop until now, and that actually reading what I've put in the book and the tips and advice I've given have actually helped them realize that they can do it too. So that feels amazing. And I've had people ask me who my sober coach is. I've put people in touch with Chick. And every day I get at least that one message from someone. So that feels amazing. And my book is also now it's May, it's going to be available in the US. So I just want to reach more people now. I'm like, please tell more people about my book, because I just want to keep spreading the message. Like, being sober is cool.
Yes, it is. It is the coolest crowd. And I just want to say what's great about Millie's book is it's a bit more than just a sort of memoir of her drinking. It includes little segments from a doctor who writes really clearly about how it affects your brain, how, like, what binge drinking does, like how, and those bits are really, so Millie kind of tells her story, and then the doctor kind of says, well, this is actually what's going on in your body and how it affects you. And it's actually, you know, the combination of those two things make it really interesting and effective.
Yes, Dr. Ellie was amazing, and the bits of information that she's included were the kind of the things that when I stopped drinking and became really curious about, okay, what have I actually been doing to myself by consuming so much alcohol? And I think getting curious and when you find out like this kind of information, it really shifts your mindset. I think it's like you can't forget it once you know. Yes. And you're like, okay, I was actually like, the feeling of being drunk is actually like my body's reaction to being poisoned. You're like that's not okay. The more I listen and read to, like, you know, podcasts like yours and information Dr. Ellie shared, and there's constantly new studies coming out about the effects of alcohol as well, like with the amount of links to different cancer.
Worst thing you can put in your body.
Alzheimer's, like, you know, it just baffles me and terrifies me that we're still so encouraged to drink it. But things are changing.
Yeah. It's also the best investment for your health and well-being and how you age. Like, you will, like, the payoff when you get into your 40s, you will age differently to your peer group who drink. I'm just going to say it. It's the truth. I noticed it when I turned about 45, that my peer group looked older.
Yeah. Well, you know, literally, you're like, your skin is it gets so dried out from it.
Yeah. And imagine what it's doing to your internal organs. What's the future? I mean, you got 2 little girls, you're raising those. What does the future look like for you? What are you up to? What's going on?
I feel like I've definitely got another 2 books that I want to write. So like, I touched on mental health and my anxiety in this book, but I really feel like I want to talk more about my experience of anxiety through the years, what I've learned, where I'm at now. And then I feel like I want to do one around like my body image and body dysmorphia, but I think I'm still on that path and I need to get further down it in order to write that one. But those are just ones I feel that I've got in me. You know, I'm juggling trying that work balance of being present with my kids, and then also I feel very lucky with the brand deals and content creation that I do, that I can work, you know, half the day and not all day every day. But I'm just, the juggle is real. Work for a bit and then baking cupcakes, and then I'm going on a school trip and then go to a meeting, and it's just, it's kind of chaotic, but it's busy in a really good way. And I feel very positive about the future. I've got a few work projects on the go that I can't 100% reveal yet, but you know, when you're at a point where there's been a lot of things in the works that you're like, I don't know if this is definitely going to come off, and it's like a bit of an in-between time where you're working on things that you don't know they're definitely going to happen.
Yeah.
And then 1 or 2 of them now like are definitely happening, and it feels like I've just been trying to manifest all these things that are happening and putting in the work, and now they're actually happening, and I'm like, oh my God, it's a really good moment. So I'm feeling very positive.
And well done and congratulations. That is all possible because you're not drinking. All of like life gets expansive. Sobriety expands your life. It's expansive. There's more. It's not lack. It's not less than. You don't miss out. It's like more. And you just so perfectly illustrated that. So we'll be excited to. Well, I definitely would love to hear more about the book about anxiety, because that was my personal story too, and really, really common with so many of my clients. So I think there is definitely, we don't actually say much about that. It's particularly social anxiety and using alcohol to deal with social situations. So I think there's definitely more to be said about that. Bad Drunk is available in the US. It should be by the time this podcast comes out. It should be available everywhere that sells books. I got it on my Kindle. Highly recommend it. Well worth the read. Where else can people find you, Millie?
You can find me on Instagram at Millie Mackintosh. That's my main channel. I'm on TikTok too, but mainly on Instagram. So I'd love to hear from you. Please message me if you've enjoyed this episode, and I'd love to hear what you think of the book. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Millie, for coming.
Good to talk to you. And I can just, like you said, it's speaking to someone else. You know how I felt. You've been there. And it's there's a real comfort in that.
Yeah.
And also I love speaking to people that are further down the road with me, like further down the road of sobriety. And it just makes me so excited that, I'm probably still in the early bit where it's hard, and it's just going to keep getting better.
Yeah. I'm going to be 25 years sober on Friday.
Wow.
And I want to tell you,
Amazing.
My gratitude increases, and I'm very, very clear. This life I have is 100% because I stopped drinking and did the work of emotional sobriety. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't luck. It was because I did those things. And that's what I want everybody to know. And I want you to know, Millie, like 25 years from now, you will look back and I'm not saying, life happens, stuff happens, but even the stuff that happens, right, that's difficult, that's challenging, you can navigate it, right? You can navigate anything. And you can grow from it, even the really, really hard stuff.
Yeah.
And it just keeps getting better. I always tell people, like, if this wasn't good, if this wasn't fun, I would have been drunk 24 years ago. Like, it just keeps getting better.
Yeah.
So that's what's in store.
That makes me very excited. So, thank you.
Keep going. Thanks, everybody, for listening. I know Millie would love it if you would reach out to her and let her know what you think about the book. And we will be back next week. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
I dreamt that you were twisting through 7 suns of gold, and the gypsy was insisting that its story must be told.